So welcome guys today to Kindred headquarters here at SOS on Callan Road. With me today for a little panel discussion I've got Helen Curtin, one of the co-founders of Kindred. I've got Mike Kelly, one of the founders of Young Irish Filmmakers. And I've got Stephen Murphy, the founder of the Father McGrath Centre and the Neighbourhood Hall. So Mike, I think I'm going to start with you. This is an exciting time. Say again?
Why?
Because you're the clever one.
Fine.
So it's an exciting time for Kindred, and we're very much in sort of a startup phase and having to beg, borrow, steal, learn, devise, create everything that's kind of happening. And you know, do you see similarities with what's happening now and with filmmakers, and what kind of frustrations and things did you encounter when beginning filmmakers?
Well, no similar. Everything was handed to me on a plate. I thought. Filmmakers, particularly, I had returned from Australia and I don't think I ever had a real job in Kilkenny. I left school around 15. Did a few jobs, did that. Then created an art fund on my dole money to create a youth theatre and that. So it leads in. And so I was youth theatre, and then in England I got a degree in film and television. So I had film, and then in England I put together my film skills and the theatre skills with the youth theatre I was running in London. But then a certain person called me over to Australia to work with street children. I was there for a year and a half, something like that. And then I decided, no, I'll come back to Kilkenny and start up a youth film thing, which was unheard of. This was 91. So it was film, tape was just barely on the scene. And so when I came back, nobody believed in it. Really, you know, I went to RTE, nobody believed in it. So we were in Austria Youth, we had a room there, and some youngsters, and they just paid a kind of a fee to do a 10, 12-week course, and then we made a film. But we had no equipment. I mean, for the first 6 months, I had a still camera. Making films, so we used to go out and shoot stuff, and then we'd edit the photographs because I'd run down and get them developed to edit. So we had no facilities whatsoever. We had a room and a hall in Austria Youth, and that was all we had. And then a girl called Mary Hogan, who was studying film, she took a year off and helped me along with that. And so we made our first film in the mid-91, and then we thought, yeah, this is it, but we can't really work with film. And so gradually tape was edging in. And then a room became available in St. Joseph's, the old orphanage. And so we took over a room there and eventually became half the building nearly. But I think that I just kept going because I believed in what I was doing. It had worked in London, you know, we won an award, the kids. But I thought Ireland was going to be, Kilkenny particularly was going to be the place because everybody knew me here, so I was able to, you know, beg, borrow and steal favours all over the place. And gradually we started to build up, and, you know, with meetings with artists and things like that, they were all saying, well, you know, we've applied for funds and we haven't gotten funds. And I thought, well, how do you get funds if you're not actually doing something? So I wasn't really applying for funds. The local arts officer, Margaret Cosgrave, gave me some money to kind of get started in that. But I thought, if we do something, it'll happen. And so I went and bought the rights for a book called Under the Hawthorn Tree. And RT told me basically, you know, go away. This isn't going to happen. Kids can never make films. And so I had to go around. It took me a year and a half trying to convince people to get enough money. And then Channel 4 was the one that actually had the breakthrough was, you know, and they were going to make it themselves, you see. So they asked me would I come over. So I think the only thing I can say is, if you believe in what you're doing, no matter what kind of an artist you are, there's a way through it, but it can take a long time. But don't give up, because, you know, suddenly the breakthroughs will come when you least expect them. And I think that would be my...
So is it kind of perseverance? Is that what you're kind of...
It's perseverance, but not just perseverance. You've got to be really strong as well. You know, the thing is that everybody will tell you that you can't do this. You know, this is not... Particularly filmmaking at the time. You know, technically young people couldn't because it was film. When sort of digital changed everything, of course. But that had to come along as well. And so what we were just basically started was a youth club, and we started doing stuff, and then people got interested in the, you know, but you can hang around forever and nobody will be interested because you're not really doing anything. You're looking to be famous or noticed, but you've got to do the work and you've got to stay with the work.
So keep making content, is that kind of...
I think so. I think, we certainly never ended where we started because, I had certain ideas, but then I had to go left or right of those because other things were happening and the young people were dictating what was happening. So you be prepared not to have just your viewpoint in the pot, Once you collaborate with people, with other people coming on board, like Mary was already a student of film, in the National Film School, and she added to it, the Galway Film Centre added to it. All these people added to my ideas, but money was hard to come by. Only when we actually made Under the Hawthorn Tree.
Then people
We had about 1,500 grant or something from somebody, but only then did the Arts Council actually come down to the set. And they saw all these people, horses, dogs, children, all over the place, all kids making this film. I was there to talk to them. I wasn't doing it. I was just a producer,
So you kind of have to make the big noise yourself first.
You have to make noise to get in somewhere, perhaps. But also think about if somebody doesn't let you create, then create anyway and go and stage your own festival or stage your own show or get more people on board and collaborate. Don't stay there alone.
Well, I think finances are a big kind of maybe almost excuse for artists because if you don't have the money, it's very easy for you to say I can't do that because I have this and this cost and that cost. But if you use a kind of beg, borrow, steal kind of shoestring entrepreneur type model, then you just have to do it anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kieran. I mean, it's about finding a need. I mean, the world is always looking for a better mousetrap. And to me, I mean, community activism back from when I was 12, 13 years of age, there was no money available. It wasn't an option. What you did was you identified a need. You got people together who had the resources to say, well, what can we do, or what are the steps we can take to address this issue? And stuff grows from activity. And it's not about money. Money follows the activity then. If you're successful in what you do, if you if you identify a need. And the Farnham Grass Centre would be a classic example of that. I mean, we started with no money. We walked into a dirty building with not a clue as to how we were going to maintain this, recover the costs, or do whatever. And yet, it was with a bunch of volunteers. We looked at our community and said, what are the really important things that need to happen here for children? And kind of education and literacy was a huge problem that was kind of standing out to us. And we got together a bunch of volunteers and said, well, how do we address early school leaving in this community, given that we're not teachers and we don't have government resources or grants and whatever. And we said, you know what, we spend an hour a day with children working on literacy, numeracy and their own self-confidence. And we found in that a model that was highly successful. And it was from there, organically almost, that the activities grew. And money is attracted to success. So first you need the activity.
I totally agree with that.
And to me, what I see, I mean, there's a societal disconnect in the 21st century with mainstream medias and kind of instant news. And you can see there is so much talent. There are so many people who don't feel connected to mainstream. We were talking about schools earlier on, and schools have a very kind of factory performance around education. This is the model of what I'm trying. We must educate tens of thousands of people. But there are thousands and thousands of people that just don't fit that model. And Kindred is, to try and attract those souls that don't fit. And I would say filmmakers, and the activities we had, they tended to be people who were looking for somewhere to fit or somewhere to contribute within society because they weren't hurlers or they weren't athletes or they weren't kind of star academic kind of performers.
Cartoons. Your own guy, when he came in, they weren't hurlers, it was shelter for them already.
One of the things I've really noticed running the local training initiative for filmmakers, and that's probably heavily influencing the Kindred now, is that you start realising that there are all these young people out there that have talent and they have skills and they have ambition and they have drive, but they have no structure.
Absolutely right. There is no opportunity for them, and that's to me is what I really like about Kindred. It is a collection of like-minded souls who want to do something, who they want to explore their own artistic kind of strengths, but they want to contribute. They want to make the world a better place. And again, so that's a huge ambition, make the world a better place. Where do we even start? you start right on your own
That's
doorstep.
where you are now.
So what we're finding with Kindred as well is that at the moment it's sort of like a test patch where we've got a load of artists and people coming in from the community to pull the content together, to raise the money to get the equipment. But even doing that, they're all coming together. Every action that we're doing is triggering more stuff.
Yeah.
So
Collaboration as well.
and it's also the lads that are coming in here now that are doing that work. They're doing that to invest in themselves, in their own future. So the work that they're putting in is this is theirs. They own this, and they own the space, and it's very exciting. And you can see it, especially through the LTI program, because you can see over a long period of time. This is a full-time program that Young Irish Filmmakers run, and I've been lucky enough to manage it for them. But you can see transformations in people.
And I think one of the problems I find with young people, and with adults as well, when they want to start something, they try and outthink themselves. You know, just start. Just start. Because if you think ahead, those things won't happen at all usually. Sometimes the worst things do. But I had no idea where I was going. I was just making it up as I went along. And that's it. Because quite often there's a big wall there. You think, I haven't got that and I haven't got this and I'm not good enough at that. There's other people can do all that stuff and they'll be attracted to it, you know. And I mean, we started, about a year and a half ago, we started, say, Dream Stuff.
Yes.
Out of nowhere, to work with young people, to give them a lot of power over it. But and then I met somebody on the street with a dog, a lovely dog, but he was part of Dream Stuff, the old Dream Stuff, and the old Filmmakers, and now he is the main man managing, because I can't manage nothing, you know. But he is doing all of that, and I'm very much in the background now, seeing the kids believe in yourself, trust it, you know, and now they're performing improvisation, devising. But I just had to say, let's start, then they'll come, you know. Build it and they'll come. Do you remember that in the film?
Absolutely,
Build it, you know, and build yourself, and don't be afraid, even if you're very afraid. You know what I mean? Because it's scary going out and talking to people and trying to convince them that you're good. Now, well, show them you're good, you know, but then it will happen. Do stuff, then it'll happen.
Totally agree. And you see it in Filmmakers again in that program where people start on the course, they don't know how to use a single piece of equipment.
No.
They want to make a film. Okay, go and make a film.
Yeah.
And then how do we use this? But then you bring in the training. But because they really want to do that, they learn the skill very easily.
And I have over the years found that young people in particular are very resourceful. And they're very resourceful because, you know, no one has yet persuaded them that can't be done.
Yes.
So, and that is, you know, community activism by its nature is pathfind. We were just talking about where do you start with things. I remember it always struck a little story about Mahatma Gandhi, who when he had first gone to India and kind of set up his own kind of community movement and was looking at the big issues, and he had a group of young people that were kind of foremost intellectual leaders of the Young Indian Congress at the time, all very well educated, Eton kind of backgrounds and whatever. And they went to visit a little village which was very impoverished, and the streets were people would defecate on the streets, there was animal shit and human shit everywhere up along the footpaths. And an intellectual debate had started amongst the students. It said, well, how do we fix this? What's needed? We need to be educated people, we need investments in infrastructures. How do you take on hundreds of millions of people and address these issues? And while this debate was going on, they turned around and Gandhi was nowhere present, and they looked down the street, and he was walking down the street, bending over, picking up lumps of shit. He dug a little hole, buried it, covered it over. And as Gandhi was going down the street doing this, the kids were following him and watching him, and they started doing the same, and then so did the adults. And the moral of Gandhi's story is, you start with the shit in your doorstep. You can't come in and say, okay, if we had 100 billion euros, we could do this. You start with the stuff, the problem that you have on your doorstep, and you take the simple initiatives you do, and one thing leads to another. That is the nature of community activism. As you said, a talent comes in, you have no idea where you're going to go with this or how it's going to happen. Somebody walks in the door and says, hey, listen, I have somebody who has, will give us this opportunity. And That's why Kindred is important.
Yeah.
I don't think you can overly plan what Kindred is going to be, because I think it will be dictated by the talent that walks in the door and by
Absolutely.
the energy
Yeah.
that they're going to bring
Absolutely.
to try and kind of address the ideals, and most importantly, give them the opportunities that they're looking for. And
Yeah.
really, what we're looking at in Kilkenny is we have an immense amount of talent, but it has nowhere to go.
Yes.
And I think in Kindred, it is that talent coming together and says, well, what should we be doing?
Yeah.
Where are the bits of shit
It's a
on the
massive
street that we need
resource.
to be picking
I
up?
mean, all those
Absolutely.
skills and all
Yeah.
those talents, if you put them all together in one space,
I've seen that in
they
the
can
LTI,
create,
by the way, Helen.
they
I
can
mean,
create
yeah.
incredible things.
My
yeah.
yearly experience of the LTI,
Yeah.
and the LTI was actually originally a Fatima Grass
Yeah.
Centre project, but
Yeah.
it was kind of, handed on, and I was so pleased that it went to filmmakers. But I could see the talent that came in the door. I mean, these guys they didn't really fit, they kind of didn't feel that they belonged anywhere. And suddenly there was a sense of, well, it's all those misfits together, really.
Yeah.
And we are a community, there's a fair more of
Yeah.
us out there than we actually thought.
Yeah.
And what there isn't out there isn't opportunity for us to pursue the things that we want to pursue.
Yeah.
So we need to create those opportunities.
Also, I think that a lot of the artistic thing is bent towards being in Hollywood and being that. Just forget about it, because
Yeah.
when we started Dreamstart recently, we looked at a bare stage, no props, no costumes. That was the main thing, just raw stuff, and that's brought in audiences. Because,
Yes.
some of them come to see their kids playing, but the youngsters, we had to educate them out of what they thought theatre was. And it's just, so one person said, 2 boards and a passion on a
Yeah.
stage. So, why are you aiming for these things? If these things come, great, but be true to what you want to do. Small
yeah.
start, as you said with Gandhi. Small start, make it, then find out who you are. Really, that's the thing, and everybody around you is telling you, you are this, and my own nephew like rap and things like that, and but also now he's thinking, maybe if I put classical music under that, so he
Yeah.
found out that by going to you, and that
Yeah.
was it. So if you're listening to this and you're sitting there and you wonder where do you start, if you feel you have a talent, one, join LTI, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
or
Or
Kindred.
Kindred.
Yeah, of course, I was coming to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But just find out. You don't have to sit there. The schools are not catering really for
Yeah.
the arts. They're not, and they're not there to do that. But they're doing.
I mean, the schools don't, and the colleges do if you have a certain amount of money and you want to study a specific art form. But the key problem is that even if you do, even if you don't come from a background of poverty and so on, you could have the best degree in the world or go to the best college for opera, dance, film, theatre, name any creative art form. Even when you finish that, it's not a traditional career. I mean, if you want to work in the medical industry, then you train to be a doctor, a nurse, whatever it is you're going to be. You apply to a hospital, and off you go. You have your full-time job, and you get that probably a year after college, if not quicker. than
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Whereas in the arts, you have to intern yourself till you're broke, and I think that does have the combination of that struggle of having to keep going without kind of giving up as a solo person, and also working on your own on a solo project. It does affect your mental health, I think, in general. I think that's the other thing that we have to kind of definitely flag up in filmmakers, is that it kind of goes back to that point of the misfits being together, and I think that helps you, because
Yeah.
if you think you're the only person,
Yeah, it's very lonely otherwise.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's isolating, I think, if you're the only person.
It can be.
And particularly in a city like Kilkenny, where it's not New York, you can't just sort of skip down the street and go to a jazz concert,
Yeah.
So and because sport is so strong.
I would actually argue against that in terms of, Kilkenny is not New York, it is Kilkenny, and there has always been an artistic community. There have always
Yeah.
been kind of group of people that know they don't quite fit, but they have common interests.
Yeah.
It's how theatre grew in this town. and
Yes.
stuff in this town.
Yeah.
It's how the festivals started in
Yes.
this town. It is, again, coming back to even the kind of Fatima Grass Centre, it is a group of like-minded people agreeing on, okay, here's something we would like to achieve, small things. But from all, and again, there was never money to do these things. These things organically happened
Yes.
through the will of, of people that wanted to make change. And then the money followed. I mean, you know, once they were able to get programs up that and demonstrate that they were successful and they were having social impacts, then the money followed.
I believe that's what's going to happen here as
Yeah.
well. I really
Yeah.
do. And
So
that's
people
why
have
we're
things a
making
bit
as much
backwards that
content,
they kind of think I'll get the grant, I'll start the thing, and then it'll all be great.
And money can also
Yeah.
cause problems for you because then you have to fit into certain parameters
Yeah,
which you
yeah,
may
you
not.
have
I
to.
mean, I'm
Yeah.
certainly 25 years of filmmakers was great, and we got lots of money coming in. But I really wanted to just downsize, if you like, to a small group doing small things locally,
On your own
and
terms.
have a lot more time. And nobody telling me, oh, well, does that fit into? And you have 8 pages of forms to fill in. You know,
Yeah.
just let's do this and have fun together. And you know, some of those may go on to careers, they may not. You know, it doesn't matter. You're doing it now in the now, and the now leads to the next thing. You know, today now, John Dorn, you know, who was a young lad in filmmakers and then dream stuff, he's coming down to do a workshop with our youngsters today. And you know, John Morton is interested, and we're getting a couple of performers from the Cat Laughs to come down. You know, so because they started hearing about what is this, you know, what is this thing, you know, because you know, we have some kids longing to be in a real theatre group, as they said earlier on, and they got kind of sour look saying we are in a real theatre group, we just do it differently. The differently is often the thing you have to start with.
A lot of what I've seen through the course is a lot of young people who are very talented and individualistic, but they haven't got the right supports in place. So there's a big danger, and a lot of them get into a lot of drug problems, social problems, and you know, dare we say it, there's a suicide problem in this town.
They're most
as
at
well.
risk because they're creative.
Yes, and they're creative, but like they don't understand their own nature. A creative nature is never going to be the same as that of a surgeon who's like this. Do you know? A creative is always going to be, and they need to be. It's okay for them to be who they are. Do you know? And I think also with artists is that they tend to spike in certain areas, that they'd be brilliant over here, but absolutely woe-just over there. Do you know, they may not be great.
That's where collaboration happens.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
So if you've got other people and you're, you know, what you were saying was so good there about the, you know, bringing all these weirdos together, and then you're not, you know, and I always say, well, if you're not a freak, who are you? Kind of thing. And, you know, this is a place, the GAA, if you're sporty, you can belong there.
Sure.
You've got your family events, you've got your sport events, you've got your business deals, you've got, if you're an accountant, you go to the accountants.
But we're different because it's of no account in a lot of people.
But that's
In the
a
majority
cultural
of
thing.
people,
That's
the
a
creative
cultural
thing is
thing.
of no account.
Yes.
It shouldn't be a thing. You won't get a job in it. You know, the schools.
Yeah.
Now, God bless them, they're
Who's
doing a good
decided
job.
that, though?
Oh well.
So can we not decide something
Well,
else?
listen,
Yeah.
you're absolutely
Yes,
correct.
of course.
That's it is society and people themselves to say that. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, when you get the geeks, the weirdos, the misfits, you know,
Yeah.
into a community, then suddenly they're not the geeks, the weirdos, or the misfits.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are kind of outside.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Don't fit
We're
into
the cool ones.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you hit on a very important point about young people and suicide there you made a
Yeah.
reference to. And a lot of that is absolutely down to isolation. It's
Yeah.
people that don't feel that they fit, that there's not kind of, you know, they see there's not a progression route for them
No.
to go where they would like to go with their talent. And artists in particular, they need fellow artists, they need to have a community of ideas to bounce
Yeah.
off into people that they're able to bounce or be challenged by and say, well look, you know, Jesus, that's and that to me again is why the idea of a cooperative, you know, of
Yeah.
and what I liked about Kindred, I have to say, is it's kind of age is not a barrier to it. I see there are people of all ages.
All
that
age
are
groups,
actively
yes,
involved.
absolutely.
And the
Yeah.
common denominator
Yeah,
really
yeah.
is they, you know, they're creative. They want to find a way to make society better and more accessible and open to people to pursue careers
Yeah.
in this path. In, as you said, a society that's not particularly geared or resourced to allow them to do that.
Yeah.
But that means that there's the need, there's the gap in
I
society.
think
that
it
we
is. I think
identified.
it is.
And
Yeah.
that's what you have to do. You take the
Yeah.
first steps to address
Yeah.
it. And by the way, we're sitting on the first steps to address it. because you went and you begged these counters.
I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable there.
Every group I've ever worked with
Yeah.
started with, you know, a bloody a couple of orange boxes. That was
Yeah.
There's the orange boxes.
If somebody brought
Well, I put it to the analogy of it's like when you move into a new house, you know, you haven't got everything. You go, God, does Auntie Mary have a kettle? And I need I need an iron, and I need this and that. So it's very
interesting in relation to that one. I mean, as a youth project I worked with, the project that Mick came to in Australia was a derelict house in Bondi Junction. Right?
Oh yeah.
And ultimately, what it had was it had a kettle and it had a telephone, and ultimately that's all they needed to run a youth project.
Wow.
So it was,
Fantastic.
you know, when it had been
An open door.
Yeah. Well, every open door, open
Couldn't
windows,
close
they could we just took the locks off. And that was the solution to it, you know. And there was nothing to steal, and it was self-regulating. I mean, these people, we could see what we had. We were dealing with street kids who were looking for a community. They needed that community. They needed that support. And ultimately, I understood that youth project wasn't. I didn't need €1 million with kind of, you know, 3 stories of resource, you know, gymnasiums and facilities. What we needed was an opportunity for those people to meet and share their own ideas and work together around. And that's where we did lots of community murals and art projects and very simple stuff.
Brilliant
led
stuff.
to, you know, and now Bondi Youth Services is now multi-million-dollar business, and it has, you know,
It's his own youth centre.
But it
that took us a while.
followed genuinely a grassroots movement that identified the gap, moved into the need, and then the funders or those in society recognised, yes, this is creative force, this is a good force, it has very positive social benefits, we should be supporting this. So, and that's where I hope.
And are you seeing the same social issues in the last 10 years? Has there been any kind of change?
Yeah, listen, I have to say, I think the same social issues have existed for the last 100 years.
1,000 years. Yeah.
However, there are very different. I mean, the social media is having a huge impact, which I'm still trying to digest myself and try and understand, because it's a form of instant communication that never existed
For
before.
good and evil.
We have a generation of people who have at their fingertips every, you know, I mean, I often think that the phone I'm holding now, when I was, you know, your average young person's age, NASA didn't have the kind of computing power that I have in my inside pocket. What I have on this phone, I can access the library resources of nearly every library in the world. I mean, the amount of information I have available to me. And there's a danger in that one as well, of course, as we're seeing with trends in populism and nationalism and Islamophobia that's kind of coming out the currents. And that's why, I mean, I think we're moving into 5G now as well. So 5G really frightens me, because I think that we're looking at, you know, between facial recognition technology, between tracking, between big media companies controlling all this information and data around us, where does the individual fit here? Where's individual power in relation to how this is going to be controlled? So,
well, I suppose that's the thing. Like, smartphone usage is based on individualism. Like, and there is a danger that, you know, if you are a kind of a one-man show, you're a graphic designer or a web designer or somebody that, like, for me, I'm a performer, so I have to eventually get out somewhere and be at a music venue and socialize. But there is a danger that you have everything you need at your fingertips. If you want to call your family, you go on Skype. So I suppose I like the fact that Kindred is bringing it back to that kind of community sense and real people, and not just I'll message you on my Facebook.
You need real people.
Yeah, you're
you know,
interacting with real people.
I never saw the smartphone coming. You know, if we knew that we could make films with phones. Dublin has a smartphone festival now. They're actually working. And, you know, so any young person sitting at home can make a film. You know, they can make a film. The sound is always a problem, but nevertheless. But if they know that there are resources then that they can come to, it's sometimes how you reach out then and sort of say, we're here. Hello. Come along to us. And if you don't want to join, just sit and talk and we'll see where are you coming from, what are you doing.
And I think your point is very relevant, Kieran, because there is a danger with multimedia and being able to do everything online, is that you don't actually have physical contact with people. And I think 5G is going to kind of exacerbate that, because when you combine virtual technology with it, I essentially be able to sit in my couch and I'm in any world I want to be, which is great, which is fantastic. It is mind-blowing science fiction we couldn't have thought of 30 years ago. However, there are big societal consequences of living in that kind of isolation. And that again is why the importance of the physical meeting of people
Yeah.
and the swapping.
It has to
and
be
exchanging
both,
of
really.
ideas. Yeah.
I just wanted to make a point about the positive side, certainly for Kindred members and young artists coming up everywhere, is that, like, certainly the cohort that I would deal with and my experience of the Arts Council and other large bodies, you have to get into a system in order to get the grants. You have to get connected to large companies in order to previously, if you wanted to release any music or get an album done or anything, you needed a record company to do that. What we can do here at Kindred is to create a big marketing channel where we're broadcasting all the time, and we're also, so it's creating, so the lads here can all make their reputations online. They don't need the money. They don't need these big businesses to do it.
And the biggest thing,
yeah.
the biggest thing I had to teach the young people was that cameras, sound equipment, everything are just tools for your talent. That's all they are. Don't treat them as gods. They're just a thing you move through. You know, filmmaking, your eye is the most important for directors. You know, your own voice and your movement, all that for actors. You know, designers, whatever. But it all depends on you. That's just dead. If there's nobody sitting in a room, all those microphones are just dead. There's nothing. They can't do anything to themselves. So the point is that it's great to have the tools, but the passion is really where it's all coming from. I want to do this. Oh, look, a good tool to do this.
Again, I mean, I think by its nature, all community activism is pioneering, because it is about where you're at this point in time in society and at this age, and saying, well, where is this need? And again, it's about subverting the systems that are out there to try and fit. And that ultimately, you know, Kindred's great success will be when you are the most established art collective within the country and you're getting all the funding and whatever.
Well, it's
everybody will hate you.
It's been very interesting on
corporate
that
for
point.
us.
It's too corporate. We don't want to be with them at all. They're making money.
Yes. They're trying to handle our ideas.
When we first started, and I think I talked to both of you about it a couple of years back, pre-Kindred, just trying to get a community centre together, and it was like 5 or 6 of us knocking on doors. We didn't have any impact as that. And like, hang on a minute, what if there's 500 or 600 of us? And when that happened, suddenly one of the banks wanted us to broadcast from inside their bank. We've got, you know, a major computer company wanting to help us out. We've got, you know,
you were doing
different
stuff.
Yes, because they're kind of going, oh, that's the way. There's a sort of a trend towards
Stuff is happening,
tribal forming in terms of freelancing and everything, and they can't ignore it. So we can actually flip how the whole system around, and they can work with us, do you know, and we create benefits for them. And one of the things we'd love to do as well is, once we get properly set up, we already have a couple of business affiliates, but I think Kindred is about the tribe, that is this creative feeling, and we all know that we connect with each other, and we all have that. We're outsiders who are inside together, do you know? We all understand that and instinctively know it. But there's people out there in business that also feel the same way, and there's individuals who aren't necessarily want to be artists, but they want to be hanging out, they want to go to events.
I mean, you wouldn't need to be Picasso, you could be just, you know, somebody baking cakes, somebody baking cupcakes for a living at home, but if you're isolated...
when you have a kettle and you get cakes, that's great.
I think inclusion is a really huge part of it, and I think, you know, the businesses, we'd love to be working with them, to be, you know, with the likes of Billy Burns who are giving us massive support, and Crossroads Studio, and Mary Butler from the Arts Office, and she's sort of waiting to meet with us, and then we've got Kilkenny Leadership, who are also giving us great support as well. But it's because we've joined together, and suddenly, because one individual artist, one poor guy who's writing his songs away in his bedroom, how does he get his video made? How does he get his band together?
That's right.
It's just not going to happen. He's going to have to work in McDonald's for 4 years to get enough money to pay for something. That's soul destroying to a person. You know,
and also, the young person, if they have talent, is really, you know, and they feel, how do I get this out? The great story, of course, is that Tom Moore came to us as a kid, went to college, then came back again and said, I have 14 people with me. We don't want to go to Disney or anything. Do you have a room? And we had a room. So there you are, a room with people hanging out in it. Now they're the biggest employer in Kilkenny, with Oscar nominations and everything. Just made it happen.
Can I just say, I mean, Cartoon Saloon was probably classic of what happened was you had a bunch of people who had a skill and thought, now we're in the name of God in Kilkenny and we're going to use or utilise this. And then what happened was it was the time of the millennium and Foss.
Oh yes, Foss.
Foss basically were looking to fund a half a dozen Southeast projects. We went to a meeting down in Waterford, I remember it well.
Cara Hotel.
All the established artists were there. And they spent the morning railing into Foss, saying, we need this and we need that, and that's not good enough. And
criticising the people who want.
Hang on, you're telling me that you're prepared to fund 14, 16 kind of young people in a training scheme of any kind we make, as long as it has some kind of artistic kind of relevance. We'll take it. And that was the beginning.
And the book, of course.
Yeah, that was the beginning.
Which we never saw again. The book of drawings from them, we never saw that again.
Yeah, that's it. Tom Moore had done 3 or 4 cells, and this book they were working on was called the Book of Kills. Right?
Yeah, Rebel at the time. Rebel.
And we brought these cells to the kind of the head of Foss down in Waterford. And we pitched it to him, and we walked out that afternoon with it.
We had funding for a year, Foss funding for 14 people.
3 years.
And it went to 3 years because they really believed in them.
And by the end of the 3 years, those boys had so established their skill and their talent and the kind of the niche market that they had, started to receive contracts. And as I said, that was the starting point. And again, it was no money.
Make it up as you go along. Be brave. Be brave.
Saloon is one of the largest employers, in Kilkenny City. I mean, it's phenomenal. In 15 years,
it is. It's extraordinary.
And the market, and they have clocked up. Is it 3 Oscar nominations?
But they've also done so much work. But their passion was, we want to revive hand drawn animation. I said to them the other day, I think cartoons are destroying animation. They weren't impressed. But anyway, but the thing is that, it's that kind of thing. And if you're sitting on your own at home and you're just, it's a dark place and you don't know where to go. There's this place. There's other places, and you feel you're talented but nobody's interested in you. That you've got to go and talk to people. Because even though a lot of people, young people, are feeling this dark hole, if they just turn around and move and started to do stuff and talk to people and that, suddenly, when I was young, having left school at 14, 15, there was nothing for me. At that time, I didn't have a leaving cert, forget it. And so, I was just doing things that I thought were interesting. Then the whole world, I started working in London because we had done an exchange program with some people, and they said, will you come be our leader? And, so if I had just stopped at 18, say, and said, look, nothing's happening, it was going to happen. But I didn't see it because I moved, talked to people, worked at things. We started a youth centre this was, you were 14? 14, when we started the youth centre, and I was trying to keep the adults away from it, They said, what are they doing in there? Great stuff, don't worry about it, And so that is so, if there's a lot of young people, and people are telling them, you can't do well in school, you can't do this, you can't, and you're a loser and all that. You're not. You're just a young person who has some talent and passion. Go talk to the people like Kindred. Go to the LTI course, which is in filmmakers. Go to join a drama group, join an art group, a dance group.
Find your own kind, because
once you find all the other,
find your own kind.
the weirdo.
And that's where the dynamic grows.
And
that's
what
again, I come back to Cartoon Saloon. That's what happened. They found their own kind.
Yes.
Found 12, 14 other animators who wanted to and were going to, and they had the resource they did have was loads of time for their hands.
Or start your own gang of weirdos.
Exactly.
Those hangouts.
Start your own scene.
I mean, that's it. I didn't know. I had no support at all. I just felt, just somebody one time changed my life. He said, would you ever direct a one-act play? I was in local theatre with that. Donal O'Brien, Lord Emerson, just died this week. We were acting together. I hated it because we were the same age and we're always going for the same parts. Sorry, Donald. But anyway, and I said, he just said to me, would you do it? And he said, I'll send down some actors to you on Saturday. And what came through the door? All these 11 and 12-year-olds. You know, I never worked with young people. I was only working with adults. And one of them turned out to be Brendan Corcoran, you know, and things like that. And I started a youth theatre, and they wanted to keep going. That's it. And suddenly we had all these young actors in Kilkenny. But that was also, I didn't know that man had changed my life, because that was going to become my career. I thought being in theatre, I was going to become the actor of my generation, obviously. You know, I mean, I had, you know, but that wasn't it. I thought I was going down this road, and then the road changed. So, you know, if you're going down a road and you're not happy on the road, you know, just do some stuff and things will change, and suddenly you'll find who you are.
Do you want to add anything else to that, Helen?
I just feel very positive about what we're doing, and I think that what we've seen on the street is that people really need this, and that I think we can achieve some really amazing things. And I think that there's so much out there for people that they don't realise, you know, and what you were saying there, Mike, is just so true, you know, in terms of, you know, go and find your tribe, you know, and for us, I think, you know, we can create employment.
Yeah.
We can get people, and I'm not really mad on that idea of charity as such. I much prefer the idea of self-sufficiency, where you're teaching people how, you know, you can do it, and joining, and when they start understanding their own strengths, and everyone's playing to each other's strengths, people change inside, and that horrible lost feeling disappears pretty fast, you know, and you see it, and
and it
they
sounds
look
cliche.
physically different.
It sounds cliche, but every successful project, every, you know, through history, it all started with small steps.
Yeah.
And it's the first, those are the most difficult steps. But once that journey begins, and I think Kindred's journey has begun, and I look forward in years to come to see where it ends up. So, but I know that it is, when I see the talent that's been.
But I think also what hasn't been said is that the difference between sort of what I see between you guys and me is that you all have kind of leadership qualities, and you all obviously stood up and believed in something, and kind of were seen as the founder of that. You're all founders of something.
In spite of being told it cannot be done.
Well, exactly. Foolishly. It's showing leadership qualities. Not everybody can do that.
I was forced into leadership skills, you know. Well, I mean, the point was, I didn't have any leadership skills. They just kind of, you know, this guy asked me, and I learned how to be a leader.
I think that's maybe why you can't plan an arts career, because, you know, if you decide your 5-year plan or your 10-year plan or whatever, it doesn't necessarily work like that. People tend to fall into things like you were saying about, you know, your first class was people just send some actors along, and
that's
and,
it. That's
you've got your primary school kids.
That, you know.
So,
but the thing is also, you know, with 5-year plans and that, you're always asked for them. That and give them a piece of paper with 5-year on, fine. But I mean, now the things are moving so fast. I think you'd be lucky to get away with a 3-month plan. You know, because it has changed by then. So once you start, things will change. Don't think, and whatever your idea is, it'll probably change as well and get better, because it'll just get different, and other people will add to it. You know, and certainly I'm finding it even now. This moment, like I'm going down next to the Dream Stuff workshop. I know that other people are influencing me. You know, I'm about this idea, and they say, well, you know, what about this? And suddenly the two people were bouncing off each other. Oh yeah, let's do that. And that's important. Collaboration is very important. But if you're afraid of people, that was going to hold you back more than any other thing. Go out and talk. You know, start the conversation. Be brave.
Well, I think also, not to be. A lot of people are afraid of success, actually, not failure. So
you're absolutely correct.
I think that's the key.
And that's what I said earlier. The great thing about young people is that no one has yet convinced that it can't be done. So it is, you know,
they're
that
open.
naivety means why can't we? That's the question all young people should
and this is the testing ground. It's just a testing ground, you know, because you may come in here to do something, and then suddenly, oh, hang on, I like what Kieran's doing, and I want to do some of that stuff, and then suddenly you're an influencer. You know, and it's more important that your heart is right sometimes than your head. I think, you know, because often you can plan everything out, and because it's all planned, everybody leaves you. You know.
Well, Kindred is existing. It's a legacy of the two work the work that
I
you
would
both
say
put
the
in.
Kindred
It's a legacy.
filmmakers, Farm Grass Centre,
Yeah.
theatre, so many other things
Yeah,
across town
but we have
can be
grown
traced
out.
back to
Yeah.
our teams and
Yes.
groups of people who came
Yeah.
together and said,
Yeah.
"Geez, why don't we do this, or does it
Yeah.
need for this?"
Well,
And
we're
that
trying
is-
to do you proud, lads.
Society
We're
is
trying
an
to do you proud.
evolutionary model, and I would really look forward to Kindred going out there and,
Yeah.
you know, against all expectations, breaking and pushing out the envelope and discovering where, you know, this talent, where it can go, where progression is going to
Yeah.
happen, and what is the next cartoon saloon. Or,
Yeah.
That's
you
good.
know,
And do we get 10%
Artistic.
of any stuff? We don't get 10%.
it's in my contract.
We'll have to discuss that in the
I
podcast.
didn't get a contract. That the 5-year plan is gone.
Thank you very much, guys.
Okay,
Thanks for
guys,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right.
that was good.
Yeah, listen, best
That
of luck.
was really
Yeah,
good.
no,
I really
listen,
enjoyed